And we're recording for now, okay? So just for your knowledge. Yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know, of any nature. We do a little poll. Who has taken my ML class before 0/1? Who dropped this course last year? You can do. Well, if you have taken my ML class before, maybe you dropped it, so let's do 2 and 3. Hello, guys. So let's wait for a little bit. Maybe some other people are going to join, because I see that we have, how many people do we have in Slack? We have about, no, this is the wrong Slack. We have about we have the TAs to come. Throw away. You can introduce yourself when you want. Smiley face. And then I think that we have 30 people in Slack. So come, class is starting. Good. And then let's, yeah, so please tell me if somebody was here from my previous class, right, from my ML class from last semester. And tell me if you dropped either of my classes the last year or so. And then this is, let me post the class material. We'll discuss it later, but I'll just post it here. So maybe we do a little bit of an introduction to the class material before we move to the class organization. Into channel. Let me ask, let's see a little bit the students. Let's see, are you a foreign/exchange student? Let's do 4/5. That is not there yet. Let me check his. I think Zuawei is not here. Yeah, some more people are coming in. Let's just wait a second. When we get to 30, which is the number that I have on Slack, I'll start. Actually, let me just send an email over Portal as well. This is the first class. It's new tools. Maybe some people are still confused. Let's see how many people we had on E3. Yeah, so also if you know somebody who's interested in following the first class, please share the link. Class is starting now. Class starting now. And then we send a message says come, and we paste the link to the meeting post. Okay, very good. You guys can hear me fine. Everything is okay. Very good. We'll wait one more minute and we start. So as I said, we start with the class material, and then we move to the class organization. One more minute, there we go. And I posted the class material already. Yes. And then there should be a couple of TAs that come and talk to you guys about the experience with the class in the past years. Okay. We are here. Let's see if my Otter AI is also coming. Just a second, guys. First class laptop. Let's make sure my Otter is coming. Okay, very good. So let's just start from the class material. So as the material of this class is really, how to say, it's you can find plenty of material on this class, right? On the content of the class. So I think we just choose a set of slides that we can all go over. But basically, you can find material for deep learning everywhere, right? So if you saw the video of the TA also gives you the suggestion of look for the material on GitHub. And in fact, also this material is from GitHub. It's stored over GitHub. So really, no reason to give you any further material, any book indication, because there is material all over the internet. And so we just choose a set of slides that we can go over together, and that's about it. So we're going to start from this class from Harvard. Okay, that's a class that I usually use just because they have some nice slides online, right? So we're going to start with neural networks. Then we're going to move to CNN. Then we're going to do a little backdrop. Then let's say RNN, GRUs, LSTMs. Then we do a little bit of NLP. Then we do variational autoencoders. Then we do general adversarial networks. And then if we manage, we do a little bit of reinforcement learning at the end. Okay. So, but as I said, during the class, yeah, we will move among different slides. So I'll just make sure to post the slides every time after class. There are various years of this class. So this is the 2020 version, and there are just a little bit of differences from class to class. And I might pick a set of slides from one year instead of the other year, but substantially there is no big concern regarding the material for the class. Okay. So what is more compelling for you guys will be the class organization. And I'll try to go through the class organization as well as I can and as slowly as I can, because the big aspect of this class is that it's a challenge-based learning. And I want to define the framework right now, and I want to record it so that if you need to be refreshed about the mechanics of the class, you can go back to this recording. I want to preface the presentation with this. So the class organization, it's kind of complicated, right? It's kind of complicated because we are trying to provide a framework for you guys to cooperate and to collaborate with each other. And we spend a lot of time and a few years trying to construct a framework for you guys that allows the best cooperation, the most successful cooperation among groups, okay? So bear with me on the complexity of this, and I trust that you believe that this is necessary because cooperation among the students is really hard to foster, okay? And we might discuss this later on, but you will experience that the biggest challenge of the class will be to set up effective cooperation in your groups. Okay. Okay. So let's go. So let's discuss the class organization first, right? So the idea is that we will implement a challenge-based learning, which we'll refer to as CBL. There are many different names for this. There are many different frameworks that people develop. There are many different names that people do this. But the idea, the focus is that we want to foster collaboration between students, self-learning. So the in-class teaching and the frontal teaching will be minimized. Digital fluency, right? So we will encourage you to use generative AI tools and all sorts of digital tools that you might find useful for this. We will focus also on communication because a big part of the class will be you guys presenting the solution to a certain challenge that you develop, and also creativity, right? Especially the final project will be all focused on creativity. So the idea is we will try to run the class as follows. I have this document that I've put online. I think it's also linked in the E3 page of the class. And this describes all the minutiae of the class organization. You can go through this. You can leave comments, right? So this is a comment link. So if you want to add something, or if there's something that is not clear, you can leave a note there. In general, you will not have to worry about the class organization in that detail. Just follow the instruction that we will provide over Slack and over E3. And in this presentation, I will give you the information that you need to know now in order to take a decision if you want to take the class or not. And we will return to some of the details of the class organization later, and we might, of course, make changes to the current plan as the need arises. So the idea is that every 2 weeks, you will get a challenge to solve, and the group that you will solve the challenge with will be of 5 or 6 people. Okay, so this is the focus on cooperation and self-learning. After the 2 weeks, you will present you will have an elevator pitch, right? So you will present your solution to the students, and you will make a video and a presentation. And so there are these 3 elements. So there is the presentation in class, there is the video, and there is the presentation slides. And after you have submitted your challenge and you have presented your work, then other students are going to rate your performance. And then we're going to have a last challenge, a final challenge that will last for a month. And this will be the final project, which will account for the large part of your grade. And this will be the focus on creativity. Okay. So the first part of the class, which is focused on these 2 weeks of challenges, a bi-weekly challenge, that's bi-weekly challenge. There will be 3 phases. There will be 2 phases, and then the final project will be phase 3. So in phase 1 and phase 2, this will be the 2 weeks challenge, and phase 3 will be a month of duration. So from now until the midterm week, we will select the students at random to form groups. Okay, and we do this because the class is online, so the interaction between the students are not as readily available to you as if we had the physical class. So we want to make sure that everybody has the chance to get to know the other people in the class. So we will randomize the group. Okay. During the midterm week, of course, there is no midterm, but we will release sort of a student profile, right? And the student profile will describe the performance of the students in the class in terms of their dimension, right? So there are people that are going to be better at organizing communication and organizing work. These are what we call the leaders. There are going to be groups. There are going to be people that are better at programming. and this will be the doers. And there are people that are better at doing literature review, reviewing code, reviewing ideas, coming up with solutions, and this will be the thinkers, okay? So during the midterm week, we will release sort of a profile for each student as judged by the other team members, which will define a little bit what is their profile, okay? Then in the phase 2, we will choose a set of group leaders, right? Which depend on the size of the class, and the group leaders will choose the members with which they would want to face the challenge. Okay, so the idea is that in phase 1 you will get to know the people, and then in phase 2 you will form groups according to your particular likings and inclination, and let's say synergy with your classmates. And then, of course, there will be the final project where you again get to work with the students that you like, but this will be more focused on creativity. It will be a bigger load, and instead of having 2 weeks, you will have a full month to work with, okay? So usually this final project actually goes a little bit longer than a month, and we have a presentation in class at the end of the semester, but then we let the people submit a little bit later. So why do we have these 3 phases? So the idea again is that in phase 1 we have randomized group formation, so everybody is able to get to know the other people in the class, and we also want people to be able to figure out how to quickly cooperate with others. This is a skill which is very much required in today's life, right? That you are able to quickly assess what are your potential in the group, and will allow students to rate each other's performance. Okay, so this phase is going to be the hardest phase, and we'll discuss this later, because of course it's not easy to just pick a set of people and work with them well, and yeah, we'll discuss the dynamics of this phase later. Then in phase 2, right, the idea is that we will identify some group leaders. Generally, there are some people that are better at organizing resources than others, and this generally during the class emerges the group leaders, and they are the ones that are able to sort of form a team to face a challenge. So at this phase, it's a little bit in life, right? And so in your first job, you end up in the company that you want, and then when you're looking for your second job, you know how to end up working with the people that you like, and the final project should be the final output. So by the end of the class, you should have developed the skills to work in group, to choose your teammates, to discuss the idea, to communicate, to work effectively in a group, and so this should be the final output. And this is where you will sort of show what is your ability to find some right people to work with. Okay. So the evaluation, as we said, the reviews will be mostly made by students. So in phase 1, we will give you an intra-team evaluation and a cross-team evaluation. So in the intra-team evaluation, you will express what type of role the other students in the team took. So as we said, everybody has different personalities and likings and inclinations. So generally, we'll try to focus on distinguishing people between leaders, doers, and thinkers. So there are people that prefer to organize efforts. There are people that prefer to work on themselves, work by themselves on exploring new topics, and there are people that are more hands-on and they like programming. So this is the type of people that we want to evaluate. And then cross-team evaluation. So you will see the presentation of the work of a group online. You will see their video, you will see the presentation slides, and then we will ask you to rate them between 1 and 10. And everybody will rate generally 3 or 4 groups. And then we collect the grades from all the different teams, all the different students, all the performance of these 3 or 4 teams that we have randomized. And this gives a grade, and this gives a grade for this phase. And then in phase 2, we will just have a cross-team evaluation. So in phase 2, you will get to choose your teammates. So there is no reason to think that you would have any particular need to evaluate them since you chose them. And we will just do the cross-team evaluation. Okay, so generally this will be done with a Google form. So every 2 weeks, you will receive an email that says you have 1 week to to look at these 3-4 videos and give us a score between 1 and 10, and this is what constitutes the cross-team evaluation. So let me just, because I cannot see chat, so let me see if there is any questions on the chat so far. Sorry, guys. Let me see if there is a question. Yeah. Let me stop here. Any questions so far? I'll try to stop every 15 minutes or so. No questions so far. Very good. So, let's go back to the slides. So, as we said, so in the intra-team evaluation, right? So you will be evaluating the team, the role of the different students in the team. And as we said, we have the leaders. Leaders will be the one that are focused on organization and motivational skill, coordinate work and contribution. Then there are thinkers, which are more focused on analytical contribution and creative impulse. And then there are the doers, which are the action-oriented, action-focused people, right? And yeah, and if you see generally the type of ways in which people characters are divided, you could see this type of ways of classifying people's characters, right? So of course everybody is a mix of these 3 roles, and you could take different roles as the group changes from challenge to challenge, or depending on the type of challenge. And also this will change through your life, right? So maybe you start as a thinker, you end up as a doer, or yeah. So these are dynamics of each singular student. And it's a rough way of categorizing students, but of course it's needed in terms of providing sort of feedback on the type of work that the student wants to do, so that then in phase 2 you can provide, you can assemble your A team, right? Your preferred team. Then for the cross-team evaluation, there is a written report, there is a little video, and usually people also share the code base, not a big deal. Usually the rank, let's discuss the scoring just a little bit, because basically we thought about this solution in a few different times, right? Because basically if we let the students give a grade from 0 to 1 to each of the teams that they are reviewing in a cross-team evaluation, what they will do is they will give 10 to everybody and move on with their day without putting any effort into this. So what we would prefer to do is actually ranking, right? But if we just ask people to rank the other teams, we received a lot of feedbacks that students said that they could sense a difference in the different contributions, in the different challenge solutions, and they wanted to have some ability to say, oh, this group was twice as good as the other. So the idea is that so that we give basically, we ask you to rank each contribution between 0 and 10, but you cannot repeat the ranks. So you can give, let's say, score 1, score 5, and score 10. And then we put all the ranks of the different students evaluating a certain challenge together by summing the ranking. And then the score is divided, is normalized by the total rankings of the challenges, so that it's normalized between 0 and 1, and then we multiply by 100 and we get the score. Okay. Of course, the different phases do not contribute equally to the final grade, and the idea is that phase 1 is very tough for everybody, because some students join the class, but then they decide to drop it for whatever reason they have. And so what happens is that, and also some students are really bad with deadlines, and some students are really bad with communication. And this is actually what you will discover in this class, right? That 90% of your classmates, they really are not, they're not as quick to communicate as you will assume, right? So this is partially cultural, right? I think students have a lot of insecurity about the way they come across with others, and they have a lot of hesitation as being judged by others. It's really something cultural that I don't want to comment on. Like, it's not my role to comment on what students should do or how they should communicate, but from a purely let's say, from a purely job-oriented and professional maturation and professional development orientation, communication is key. So I think that many of you will discover the importance of communication with your teammates during this challenge. So that being said, phase one will be very hard because some people will not communicate. Some people will communicate only in the last 2 hours before the deadline. Some people will be completely unaware of the deadline. And so given all these difficulties, we give very little weight to this phase, right? So this phase is only 25%. And so usually it doesn't determine the final grade of a student. Phase two, it's very different because now you can choose your own teammates, so it's your responsibility to choose good teammates that will lead you to a good grade. And then, of course, phase three is where we focus most of the weight of the grade, meaning that if you do a good challenge with the team members that you like, and you can completely smooth out the issue with cooperating with others and focusing on timeline and schedule and division of work, then you can get 100. Okay, so yeah. So then basically, of the students that submitted the last challenge, I will say 100% of them got more than 90. Okay, so because the idea is that we want to encourage students to engage with this particular format of the class. So the class again is focused on self-learning, digital tools, generative AI tools, creativity, cooperation, communication. So we really do not focus much on the grade. We are happy to give very high grade to everybody because it's already very difficult for us to find students that engage with this type of teaching. And so, yeah, so basically don't be concerned about the grade, right? So going through the class, having to deal with people, having to communicate with others, it's already a challenge enough for us. In our view, it's already a challenge enough for the students, but if you can get to the submission of the final project, then you can count on the grade, which is an A. Okay, good. Any questions so far? Let me stop a second. Any questions so far? Any questions now? I'll give you a couple of minutes. Okay, no questions. So let's go back to this. So maybe before we go to the Q&A, let's just show you the document about the challenge. Okay, so I'll show you this document a second, just to show you. Yeah, if you want to contribute here, I'll also paste it in Slack. Document describing class framework. And I also pin it to the channel. Pop into channel. Okay. Let me ask this question in chat. Have you used Slack before? Question mark 01. Okay. $50-50. Now again back to 50-50. Yeah. Now another no. Another no. So let's ask a different question. Have you used this? Oh, so many people have used it before. Have you used Discord before? I think this is going to be an overwhelming one. Of course, everybody uses Discord, right? Of course. See? That's what I was expecting. Oh, guys, I should go to the barber. I look a bit terrible. Somebody that doesn't use Discord. Wow. Just one. So maybe maybe you should. Maybe get more into gaming or try to play some Dota or something. So basically, Slack is just a Discord for professionals, right? So it is my preferred tool, right? Some other people prefer Teams. Some other people prefer Monday.com. Some other people prefer something. But basically, the Slack is what Discord is for online cooperation, right? So because E3 is, of course, the portal is terrible, right? So you cannot have chat. You cannot, you don't have there is no phone app for E3, right? So E3 is complete. It's beyond. E3 will not be able to support the objectives of the class. So that's how it goes. And then we had the choice of various tools, and Slack is just my preference, right? So in my working pipeline, I use Slack a lot. So that's it. So let's see. Have you used Notion before? Because, for example, I think that some of you will want to use Notion maybe for the final project, right? Very good, right? So basically, if you want to, no, 90%. So we're back 50%. I haven't used Notion. Let me show you a little bit of Notion. Let me share a couple of classes that I've organized over Notion. So yeah, so let me just post on Slack, right? Some examples of Notion web pages that you can use, web pages. You can also use Notion to organize the people in your team. So this is one seminar that I taught a couple of months ago. I don't remember. And this is another quantum machine learning. I should have another Notion page. What is it? What is my quantum machine learning stuff? Luca Giacometti. Where's Luca Giacometti's Notion? Do we have a web page for this? You should see if you have access to this, right? See if you share. Is that a share? Only people invited. Okay, so there is no. Okay, let me just sorry. So the last link you have to ask for access to the guide. But should be nice. So let me pin it here now. I'll pin it to the channel. So Notion is another tool that you can use for the challenge, right? So if you have a Notion page for the challenge, you can try to use that. Okay. Okay, very good. So let's discuss the Q&A. Is there any other online tools that we should discuss before we go to the Q&A? Well, there's GitHub, right? So you guys must have used GitHub, right? I mean, if you say no to this, I'll be very surprised. Have you guys used GitHub before? I upload a repo, fork, merge. So if you just go on the GitHub web page looking for packages, and I want to know this. But tell me if you have done some code management over GitHub. Well, maybe wrong. Special. Come on, guys. Somebody tell me. I don't see the replies of the intro. Okay, good. Good. Now I have, okay, very good. So you can also use GitHub to share the code among you guys, right? So don't be sending files back and forth. Just make a quick private repo, and then you can learn that. Very good. One background information before. Have you taken a machine learning course before? Was it my ML course? Question mark. So 0, 1, 2. Answer this, please. Okay. Keep going, guys. I need to know this, eh? Please try to answer. So far, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, keep going, guys. I really need to know the answer to this. No, not good, guys. Not good. I mean, I know that you guys are very young, but so because there are many things that hinge on. Yeah, I will often talk about some machine learning concepts. So what we can do is that I can give you again. So this part of the course, let's say 2023. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let me post. So let me post here channel some ML background material for pickup. Okay, let me put it. So usually I teach ML my first semester, the fall semester, and then deep learning the second semester. So let me pin this as well. So just go through the slides again. If you've done ML before, just to familiarize yourself with some of the terms that would be used, right? It's like clustering, classification, the usual stuff, right? Okay. Good. And I have 2 returning students from my previous classes, which is good. Okay, so again, so there's plenty of materials on deep learning, so it's not an issue for me. Now the question about Python, right? How many? Okay, let's do this. How often do you use Python? Let's say option 0. Once a month. Okay, 0 is never. So, but if you do never, I mean, I'll be very surprised. Once a month. 2, once a week. 3, every day. 4, every hour. Let's ask this question in chat. I go first. I do 4. You've never used Python. It's very surprising. This feels like we should be on Twitch, huh? So once, okay, very good, guys. I mean, no fours, no four, no three. The only four. Wow. Okay, next question. How often? I should really ask for super chat. God damn it. How often do you use no threes? Really? No, there's no three. ChatGPT. Whatever. Claude. And then Copilot. Let's see this one here. Next question in chat. I put myself at 4. Sorry for the misspelling. Okay, much better. Much better. How often? Now this is a question, because if you haven't used, if you have never used Python, right? You might not do this. When you use Python, how often do you use Copilot? Yeah, this answer is really. Thank you for the honesty, guys. Never. Sometimes. Most times. Always. And I answered this question as well. And I answered this question with a 3. Again, if you've never used Python, then you don't know what is. I mean, you might have Copilot for C++. Go ahead, guys. Go ahead. Let me understand what type of people were in the class. Okay, good. So yeah, not many trees, right? Not many trees. Very good. Not many trees. Understood. Okay, good. So following on from this, right? Now I understand a little bit better. What is your let's call it digital fluency, right? Your GenAI fluency as well. So we are not going to be teaching you Python. Okay, so there is Python in the title of the course, but of course we will not be teaching you Python. Next week we're going to have a Python tutorial, and the Python tutorial is going to cover the bare basics of Python. But basically, Python is not something that you learn like C, C++, and Java, right? Because Python is very high-level language. So half of the time when you work with Python, you're not actually writing the function. You're not sitting down, writing a recursion, thinking about the memory occupation, thinking about how to handle pointers, how to shift pointers from one to the other. No, you're just there on Google looking for the definitions of the meaning of the functions. Okay. So since it's such a high-level language, you don't really peer into the way the code functions for most of the times that you use it, and especially for this course, you will be just looking up functions. Asking Copilot to write the code, to explain to you some parts of the code, and so on and so forth, right? So I'm not going to be here teaching you how to look up function definitions on Google or on how to use Copilot, okay? Then the Python documentation online is limitless. Right, so now if you want to go and understand how Python does some memory allocation or some trash bin management, there's plenty of better resources for you, right? And also, ultimately, I just don't want you to do programming. So that's a very difficult session to say. But of course, if you use Copilot, you've seen that LLM have vastly automated writing code, right? So if you see an interview with Matt Zuckerberg or with Salesforce or with Amazon, you see that they say, oh, the middle level programmers, we're going to get rid of them, we're going to fire them, because of course, many aspects of the code writing have been automated. And if it's hard for you to believe it, right, just go and download the Copilot, and then you will see that basically you have a coworker, right? And the coworker is just writing on your tab of Visual Studio. I'm looking this way because this way there is my Copilot, basically. And if you don't know what Copilot is, just ask ChatGPT to tell you what is Copilot and how does it work, right? So it's the expression, right? Turtles all the way down, right? So there's AI, there's generative AI that tells you about generative AI, that tells you about generative AI. So it's turtles all the way down, right? It's generative AI all the way down. So not much to do. So why do we use Slack to communicate? Okay. So of course, different online platforms have different use cases. I think that Slack is currently the best platform for team management, right? The idea is that what I want you to do, right, is to go once the challenge is assigned to you. You form your own channel. We will be completely unaware of what your communication is, but basically I'll ask you to change your handle to be your student ID number, and then your whatever name you want to put, so that people can find you when you are in the class, and then you can communicate between yourselves. We will not be there to interfere. You do what you want, but basically we want to give you a tool that it will allow you to communicate with each other efficiently, where you have the convenience of a well-developed app. You have it on your phone, you have it on your tablet. You decide when to receive notification. You can use whatever email you want. And if you want to use Slack, you can communicate with your team as you want. Just remember that everybody in the group has to agree, right? So I know that the Taiwanese are going to start making line groups left, right, and center. And then if you complain that if you have the line group, then you have to have everybody's line. So you have to give away your private line, and then the team members, they bother you after the challenge is over. I mean, that's your choice, right? We gave you an option. You chose another one. There are some downsides to the other one. There are some downsides of Slack, so everything is a trade, right? But generally for class, I might keep sending notification with the link to the class, but pretty quickly we'll just use Slack, and so you just use notification. We will just send notification through Slack. So make sure that if you decide to join the class, you turn on the notification by email, so that when I send a message to add a channel and I send it on general, you receive the message and you can see, you receive the relevant information for the class. And then another thing that people often complain about is that once we assign the channels, once we assign the challenges have nothing to do with the class that we teach. And of course, this is by design, right? So the idea is that in class, I will give you some introductory notion. I will give you some references to material. In general, I will try to keep my teaching to a bare minimum, right? I will teach maybe 1 hour, 45 minutes per week. And the rest is all self-learning, right? So the rest of the class will be doing the elevator pitch, right? So every week, I will ask the groups to come online and to prepare 4 or 5 slides to either present the current progress with the class or to present the final solution, and then that will be the class, right? The class would be people presenting, and at the end of the class, I will present the material a little bit, right? So that's by design, right? And also the idea is that the challenge should be a challenge. So we want to give you a challenge that will require the cooperation among multiple people, right? So if we had to give you the background material to cover, let's say, the 2 weeks of work of 5 people, then then the frontal teaching will become 5 hours of frontal teaching per week, right? But that's not the goal, right? The goal is for us to give you the initial material for the class, and then it is necessary for you to go and assign different tasks to different people, so that everybody goes out, finds all the information, comes back to the group with the solution, and then the learning occurs between the two of you, right? Also, very importantly, you don't have to attend class. You don't have to attend my frontal teaching, okay? So if your group is presenting, then we would like you to present. If you decide that you don't want to stay if you want to stay from the frontal teaching, that's perfectly fine, right? We'll record, and you can go back. You can follow the recording. You can just follow the slides. You can just look at the transcript. You can do whatever you want. The frontal teaching is not what you will be evaluated on, right? So what you will be evaluated on is your ability to work in groups, to produce an interesting solution, to figure out how to address the challenges, to communicate effectively. That's the scope of the challenge, right? So sometimes, there's an aspect of ego, right? So if I teach class, then the students should listen, but of course, that's not how I feel, right? I feel that I'm providing a service to the students. If the students find the frontal teaching useful, then I want them to attend. If they prefer to have the recording so that they can go back and forth and they can look at the class when they wish to do so, then that's fine by me. If they just want to go to the slides, it's fine by me. If they don't need me at all, then it's even better, right? So it means that you will find other teachers. There will be other ways for you to learn. There will be other challenges ahead of you. It's good. It's good. I'm here to provide a service. So some people have issues with the class in English, right? I know that you can turn on the subtitles. The subtitles are not that great. I can ask also I can also save the transcript of the class. So the transcript, of course, is not great. Usually, I try to speak slowly, but my usual pace of speaking is a little bit faster than this. I have many meetings every day, and I talk a lot. So I tend to speak sometimes quickly. So you can tell me if I start speaking a little bit too fast. Just remember, right, that I have a certain accent, which is the Italian accent. Most of the professors that you have with, you take class in English with, are Taiwanese, so they have a Taiwanese accent. So if you see my schedule, I talk to people of all different countries, and everybody has their own accents. The Americans usually have the best vocabularies, but of course, from an Indian native speaker, an American speaker also has an accent. So just, tell me if I speak too quickly. If I start mumbling because of some reason, just let me know and I'll try to adjust. And then, of course, if you think that you don't want to follow the class in English, just follow the slides and it's perfectly fine. Yeah. So I have to say that sometimes I mumble because I don't want to, let's say that if I'm interrupting somebody, I don't want to interrupt their flow of thinking. So I tend to mumble when I interrupt somebody that is saying something because I don't want to take their concentration away. So if that happens, just ask me to repeat or say something else. It's fine. Okay. Now, the most important question is that most people will complain about the teammates. And this will happen from week 1 to week 12. And people will complain that the teammates don't participate, they don't ask email, they don't work, they are not responsive, they are antagonistic. And this cannot be avoided, right? This cannot be avoided. As I said, there are some cultural aspects to this, and there are some personal aspects to this. And I think this comes down to the fact that you guys, you're never encouraged to work in groups. And you get to the age of 27 or 26 when you go to work, and you have never worked with anybody before. You don't understand group dynamics. You don't understand how to communicate with people. It is a feature of the educational system that we have, that we do not focus on a working group, because we prefer to focus on evaluating every single person's capabilities and compare it to others. And this is, I think, why we're trying to teach the class the way we do. And you can email us if you have some very strong problems. But of course, we can only do so much. And yeah, so just take this as a learning time. Don't get frustrated. Don't get angry. And just try to learn from the experience. And I cannot say much more about this, right? So I understand that this would be the biggest difficulty of the class, and nothing I can do about it. I mean, I'm trying to teach the class year after year to improve the situation, but I cannot change beyond my own action. Yeah? And then sometimes people complain that some of the students are not mature enough to work in group. And if this happens, you have to talk to the TA. The TA are there to help you. If you think that really nobody is working, we will merge group as needed. But you have to let the TA know as soon, let's say, by the first week, right? So if by the first week you realize that nobody is there working, then you let us know, and we try to do something to move the submission deadline, to merge two groups. Of course, we do as much as possible for the people to be successful, right? We're not here to punish anybody. And especially in the first weeks, some people will just drop the class without explaining why, without telling the other teammates. And again, we are aware of this problem. We try to minimize the effects, but that's it. Okay, good. So now let me see if there is any question from chat. Any questions now? There should be some TAs that come and talk to us around 3 p.m. Okay, let's see. So what I can do is, for example, I can give you some recordings of the class for machine learning. Okay. Yeah, let me know if Lishong is here. Lishong, come. I think I talked too much. Lishong, you come. Is she already, Lishong?
What should I do now?
So don't be alarmed, Lishong, because the class is going very friendly. So don't be alarmed. Don't be alarmed. If you want to talk to the class, I think you have some slides about your previous experience as a TA, right?
Okay.
Let me just set the stage a little bit. Yeah. So we have been teaching this class for 3 years, right? So for 3 years we taught about 6 classes with this framework, and we learned a lot. And the TAs are. Yeah, the TAs are always very helpful, and I think the TAs learn more about the class than what I learned. So yeah, Lishang, if you want to speak in Chinese, I think everybody's Chinese. You can reassure them.
So, which language should I use? Chinese or English?
Let's have the class. What do you want Lishang to use? Chinese equal to 0, English equal to 1. Let's see what they say. Sure. We always do what the students say.
哦，好，
Okay,
那我就用中文讲好了。
OK，谢谢。
我主要是目前今天是在介绍一下，说可能这堂课会遇到什么样的东西，就是可能怎么样去做会比较符合老师要的预期。那顺便提醒一下，今天是最后一天缴学杂费，要缴，不然会没办法读书。OK， 那接下来是因为那个1、3上面的课纲应该也有写到说这就是学期会主要有3个阶段，前2个阶段是老师会给不同的题目，就是一些比较设定一些题目让你去以小组的方式去进行，然后去生成最后的结果。就是假设题目是比如说你要训练一个随便一个小型的 model。然后当中你就要介绍说你是怎么训练的，以小组的方式进行，你是怎么训练，然后最后成果是什么。所以前1、2阶段都是以小组的方式去进行。那小组的方式最重要就是一开始的合作嘛，就是会有组长，就是要么是组长是你们自己生出来，或者是可能老师会指派，这个要再看其他 TA 怎么决定。那 teamwork 就是大家要怎么沟通，说分配，可能你要做什么，你要做什么，这应该大家都知道。然后接下来就是第二个就是网络上的资源，因为现在很流行的就是 ChatGPT 嘛，它很强，只是大家就是要能力就是在于你要怎么判断 ChatGPT 给你的东西是不是你要的，或者是它生出来的东西，因为它很强没错，但是有一些东西可能它生成的东西一样是对的，只是不是你这个目标所要去求到的东西。然后接下来是每一次 teamwork 阶段性结束之后，TA 会给你一个那个评分表，那你就是要确实的去评这个评分表，因为假设你是在平均分布上嘛，一定会有人很认真，大部分人就普通啊，一定会有人很混。那我这个就是在跟很认真的人讲说，当你真的很认真的做这一次报告啊，有人很混的时候，你评分表就是要给他相对没有那么高的分数，因为当你给他很仁慈，你给他一个比较好看的分数，像这样做比例来讲，你付出的努力就没办法得到相对应的报酬，因为我们是以你评分表当中，你如果比别人付出更多的比例的话，你会相对得到比较多的分数。但是你如果给别人很仁慈，你比如说他虽然很混，但我还是给他一些分数，那这样相对来讲就会压低你自己应该拿到的分数。对，所以这个就是你付出多少努力，或者是别人付出多少努力，你就给他相对应的分数。但也不是叫你们敌对自己的队友，反正就是对，差不多就是这样。然后就是接下来，因为每一阶段的任务，每一阶段的 teamwork，它可能是会有2、3个礼拜啊，就是因为老师可能课堂上会希望你们分享你们这个礼拜做了什么东西，然后就是尽量每个礼拜就做一点呃一些进度，到最后就不会太赶。然后你如果有做一些进度，课堂上老师在问有没有人要分享他这个礼拜你们那一组做了什么进度的时候，你们就可以有东西可以讲。对，差不多就是这样。然后接下来的 final project 就是老师会丢一个，会希望会有一些介绍嘛，然后接下来会希望各小组可以提出一个比较开放式的 final project，反正就是希望你们有一些比较有趣的想法。就是你不需要说非常难，说什么你一定要做到一个很强的什么 model，或者是你一定要做一个什么很特别的东西。但是就是你这个老师最主要是想要看到你的想法是独特的，不是比如说网络上找别人说怎样做你就这样做，就是你可能比较有自己的想法。那在最后，你这 final project 在报告的时候，就是尽量有什么成果就拿出来，就是尽量不要只是口头说说。然后接下来是对，然后最后第4个就是每个礼拜，就是每一个阶段性至少做一点，做一点，才不会到，因为大家应该现在16周课程都很赶，所以你很常会到最后期末的时候，可能有很多考试和报告要叠在一起，那时候可能就会比较不容易生出东西来。然后另外一个就是要提醒的是，很常会看到别人是希望说啊，我一定要训练一个很强的 model，然后如果要训练很强 model，那就要一定用到比较好的 GPU，但不需要。我们想要看到的是你从60变到90这个过程，比较不会注重到90变95，只是你如果有额外的时间，你要让90变95，也是很好，也是乐见其成。对。所以主要是分享就是阶段性，这前面的teamwork 跟后面的 final project 要注意的东西。对。
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Li Shang.
overall, that's my
Yeah.
hints for them. For
Yeah. So
the,
if you guys have any question for Li Shang, go ahead. Right. So you were the TA 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 1 year, one.
1 years ago.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
depends on how many students like at the very end phase. So like usually would be 4 to 5.
Yeah. Other question? Go ahead. If you want to ask in Chinese, go ahead. Right. I mean, Li Shang is here. Yeah, maybe Li Shang, you can tell them what was the most common complaint about teammates, right? I think you received a lot of complaints about teammates, right?
Oh, like for last semester, I remember it's something with the like it's not about the course, it's mostly about the score semester planning schedule because it's only for 16 weeks. So like every project, final exam are stacked at the very last 2 weeks. So they're complaining like don't have time to like do something that actually is meaningful. And also like if you don't have time, then you may not have enough time to come up with a new idea. Then mostly the idea you come up would be the same as others.
Yeah, because usually we have like a final presentation during the final week, and then we give people, let's say, a month to submit. But even there are still professors that push the final in the last possible days. So it's a little bit of a mess because in theory, right, there were 2 weeks where there should be finals, but then the professor, they fuck up completely and they do. Some people do the final 1 month before, some people 1 month after. So the distribution should be a spike, and instead it's a Gaussian. Yeah, guys, if you have any other question for Li Shang, go ahead, right? So. Yeah. Okay, very good. Because because this year you'll have I usually tend to have 2 TAs, one Taiwanese, one foreigner, so that you're forced to. I mean, you can choose which language to speak with your TA, so you have some choice. most people prefer to talk to most local prefer to talk to the Taiwanese TA, and most foreigners prefer to talk to the English TA. So the TA this way it's away. I think he will join us at around 3 because everybody's checking out classes, right? This first week, and then Gaida should be the TA for the English one, and then yeah. So Li Shang, maybe I'll ask you next week. You and Harry, you synchronize to give a little bit of a Python tutorial. You know that Luis has those nice slides. You just sit down and you show them a little bit how Python works. I think like most people already are familiar with Python, but yeah. So I think what you want to show them is maybe the versioning, right, and how to create environments.
Okay.
Right. What do you use, Li Shang? You use Visual Studio, right?
Yes, I use Visual Studio.
Yeah. So and then maybe you show them how to use how do you do versioning in Visual Studio, and then how to use. Do you think the students use GitHub for sharing code, or they just share the code back and forth?
I start use GitHub around like third year, so I didn't do it quite early.
So yeah, so the students maybe they don't. Yeah. Yeah. So Li Shang, if you want to say something else, otherwise, which class did you follow, Li Shang? Which class did you go to?
What would you mean? The one that
You're coming
I
from
was
class, right?
yeah.
Yeah, you were coming from class, right?
No.
Okay.
Henry and Elton are coming from class, but I don't
Yeah.
have
So
class.
less than. Okay, very good. Yeah, guys, if you want to add something to Li Shang, go ahead. Otherwise, we take let's say a 5 minutes break, right? And I'll see you back at like 32 or something. And I'll leave so that you guys can ask to Li Shang, and I don't have to be here if you don't want me to listen. But it's your choice. Okay, let's take a 5 minutes break. I'll see you back at 35. Okay, let's talk back at 35, and we go on with the slides. And thank you, Li Shang, for coming. If you want to leave, go ahead. Ciao, guys. 5 minutes. Yeah, thank you, Yushan, for the help. Yeah, so usually the final project, as Lishan said, right? So you can start whatever you want with the final project. The topic, usually it's very free, right? So I might give some indication of a topic. I think in the last years it's always been, in the last year has been rhythm, right? Musical rhythm. I'll come up with some application for musical rhythms, but then nobody did it. Everybody did other stuff. You know, of course, it's okay, right? But yeah, so if you want to have a good grade, you can start thinking ahead of time about your final project. Let me see if I can find the final project. Final project. Yeah, this one here was the Python for deep learning. This was the I'll post it now on Slack, right? So this was the final project presentation from last year. This was the Python for deep learning from last year. So I'll post it on Slack and I pin it, right? So after class, you can check all the pins. Pin. I think I usually try to do something with music as a topic so that you guys have to come up with something interesting, right? Because if I give you face classification, yeah, I usually give music as a topic because I think students are fairly familiar with it, right? Because some of you take music classes maybe when you're in little or play the piano or yeah, are interested in music generally, and then you can try to use this understanding of music in your final project. So let me also give you some of my past classes, because before we arrive to this group-based some group-based format, we were doing something else. Let's see my other, just a second. Playlists. Yeah, so in 2022, there was that final lecture in 2022. 2022 final project. So let me share this one here. Yeah, let me share the 2022 final project. 3 video. How many videos? 8 videos. Final project 15 videos. Okay, so let me just share just for fun. Yeah, this is not. This was my ODE. Yeah. This was my 2020. This is how we used to teach in 2022, right? So 3 years ago, it was a very different class. Old ODE 2022 final projects. So because in my final projects before, I will ask the students to actually build an instrument, right? Build a musical instrument. It was very funny because the students, they used chopsticks and cups to do everything. So there were some hilarious results. So let's go back to the presentation. So the plan for now is that I think Harry will come to talk to you a little bit longer. And then I just want to have some more discussion about the class format, and then we spend maybe 10, 15 minutes about the class motivation, and then we can move on with our life. I just want to tell you a little bit more about how we got to this idea of the class organization. Yeah. So sorry, I'm just finding the right presentation here. Okay, so you can see my screen, right? Yeah. Share. I'm sharing the screen, right? Hop, hop. Yeah. Okay, you should be able to see the screen. Yeah, slideshow. Yeah, so the idea is that most of you do not know, you don't, I would assume that most of you do not think about the topic of the following slides very deeply yet. And I am here to convince you that that you should care about this, right? So this is why you should care, even though you think you shouldn't care. Okay, so just a quick set of slides for you to convince you to take the class and to engage with this weird challenge group learning type of framework. So the idea is that the militaries, right? They came out with this distinction. The U.S. military, after World War I, they came out with this definition of hard skills versus soft skills, right? So the hard skills are the skills that require the machinery to be completed, right? So you need to know how to use a computer, you need to use an oscilloscope, but that this extends beyond what we will consider a machinery or a tool, right? Beyond what we consider a hammer or a knife, right? Okay, knife for cooking, okay? Cooking knife, not, nothing violent, class, guys, nothing violent. So these are the skills that you put your CV, right? So when you write your CV, you say that you did this internship into this company, and typical classes, they focus on this skill, right? So even if you take a class in differential equation, even if you take a class in topology or statistics, it is clear that you're trying to acquire the hard skill, right? That will allow you to perform a specific task using a specific tool. But opposite to all these skills, there are all the other skills that a job requires, right? So if you take the technical aspects of the job, what remains is what you will choose, you will define as a soft skill. So for example, the interaction with the other workers and also the interaction with yourself, okay? And by the opinion of many people, you could say that these are the skills that determine the success of the company, the success of the worker, the success of a team, the success of an organization, right? And so of course, these classes by design, right, wants to focus on this set of skills. So let's see what people usually put in this dichotomy between hard skill and soft skills. So of course, subject matter expertise, math and statistical knowledge, data and technical skill are the hard skills. On the soft skills, you will have the problem solving, the storytelling, the cooperation, communication, creativity, curiosity. Of course, it is clear why we don't organize a class around these soft skills. It is clear why it is harder to organize a class around these soft skills, because they are very hard to measure and they are very hard to communicate and to teach effectively. Okay, so you might imagine that since they are not measurable, then do not lead to, for example, job success. But it is clear that if you try to actually measure what are the qualities that determine you're successful in the workplace, these soft skills are what really matters and what really determines your soft skills. Okay, so I don't know how they did this survey, right? The methodology, we have to go and research the methodology, but it's clear that if somebody tells you that 80% of your job success comes from the soft skills and 20% comes from the hard skills, you will not fail to believe it, right? You will not say, oh, there is no possible. Okay, of course, this is not true in any case, right? You can be a lone worker that makes bespoke oscilloscopes for a certain to sell on the market, and you never talk to anybody. There is no HR in the company. You have no managers. You have no salespeople, and so there are some people that their job success only depends on their own abilities. But of course, for most people, right, most people work in large organizations where your ability to communicate your contribution is actually more important than your contribution itself. Okay, so let's say that you contribute to a certain job with a certain technical contribution, but you are unable to communicate to your colleagues the importance of your solution, to your manager, to your sales associate, to your boss, to your the colleagues in another fab, then it's clear that your technical contribution has no value. Okay, so it's clear that you cannot solely rely on your technical skill to be successful, because it would be crazy to think so. Okay. The idea is that in general people do not focus on developing soft skills. In general, also companies, they don't focus their money on developing the workers' soft skills, and schooling, of course, does not focus on soft skills. And it's intuitively it's hard to understand why, right? Because they are skills that are hard to teach, hard to test, hard to improve, right? Because you cannot just read a book, you cannot just take a homework, you can just do a test to measure how good you are communicating, right? So these are much harder skills to put in a framework that allows itself to be in a framework that can be evaluated quickly. Okay, so of course, if you want to test someone's knowledge, that's very easy, right? You just prepare a test with 100 questions, you give them 2 hours, and you have the test. If you ask a person to evaluate how good they are to work in a team of people that they never saw before, then you have to find, you have to perform an experiment multiple times, see what is the reaction of the person, see what is the response. And of course, this is a much harder ways of evaluating a person's skill, despite the fact that, of course, that's what matters. And the idea is that also, as time passes by, it is clear that the relevance of this skill is only improving. Okay, so why is that, right? Because before, again, so these are my opinions. Okay, what we're discussing now are my opinions. So if you disagree, you're welcome to disagree. I'm not trying. These are not hard truths that I'm communicating to you, right? These are my thoughts and my opinions. So you can take them or you can leave them. So the idea is that, for example, in the 1980s or even before, most people will do a job that would belong to a certain category, right? So if you go back and talk to your grandpa, like what your grandpa was doing, with 90% probability was a farmer, right? And then the ability of the farmer were very clear, right? He had to grow into a field, then in summer somebody will come, they will buy the crop, and then they start over again. So the organization was very small, the work was very independent, and your grandpa could perform, your grandpa could perform his job without having to worry about communicating to the sale people that his corn was grown for a specific type of cooking in a specific region. That would nothing, right? So that there were very few goods, very few jobs, very few differentiation between the goods. And so that was their life. Maybe then you talk to your papa or maybe your grandpa, and then you ask them which job they did, and then most people had some sort of office job that involved, for example, accounting, maintaining inventories, utilizing machines. So even if the number of jobs were more, because not everybody was a farmer, still the number of jobs that we had was very limited, right? So you will go to school for accountancy, you will go to school for agriculture, you will go to school for driving, and then you will do the same job for the rest of your life, and there would be very little need for you to adapt to new scenarios, to take in new information, and the type of jobs and the amount of jobs that were there was pretty fixed. But of course, if you think about today now, most jobs take place in large organizations where the interaction between workers is continuous, where the nature of the job is continuously changing, and it's clear that now your value as a worker, it is only in that it is part of a larger network. Okay, so that the communication, the information, the innovation flows through the organization continuously, and your ability to aid the transmission of information and innovation is just as important as your technical contribution. Okay. Yeah. So here there is a very simple graph. We don't have to again go into the specific. The idea is just that if you take people, right, and you try to rank their abilities in terms of technical skill, for example, math, and their social skill in terms of high and low, it is clear that the people that are doing worst in nowadays are the people that have low technical abilities and social abilities, and the people that are doing best are the people that have high technical abilities and high social abilities. But if you have to choose, right, whether you prefer to have high technical abilities and low social abilities, or low technical abilities and high social abilities, it's clear that it's better to have high social abilities than technical and low social and low technical abilities. Okay, so these are the two lines in the middle, the brown and the green, right? The brown is low math, high social. The low is high math, low social. And it intuitively, this also corresponds to our intuition, right? Because even if you cannot contribute to the innovation inside the company, you can still be good enough to decide whether to pass this innovation on to your network of workers or not. Okay, so let's say that you are managing certain companies. Some innovation comes to you. You might not be good enough to contribute to this innovation, but clearly you are good enough to decide whether you should foster the spreading of this innovation. Okay? And then going back to this discussion, the rise of jobs that require decision making. Okay, another aspect of this soft skills is the decision making skills. As we said, your grandpa was most likely a farmer, and he could choose whether to grow rice or grow rice. And my grandpa was choosing whether to grow rice, to grow potatoes or corn. And those were the two decisions. But now, of course, a worker has to decide on a large number of topics, the ability to to take decision independently without needing an infrastructure to support this decision making. Of course, it's very crucial. And we have to face today the rise of advanced generative AI, right? So this is something that was in the chat that we discussed, that we were hinting at before. And of course, this generative AI will take the technical aspects of working away from us, right? So of course, the relevance of the technical knowledge is decreasing, and the integration of your knowledge and the analytical abilities of the AI tools is increasing every year, so that the only thing that will eventually remain are the soft skills. Okay. Of course, we do not know what is the timeline by which this will occur, but we are pretty sure that AIs will be able to take all the technical abilities that a human is able to produce, and of course also beyond, and in the long horizon of time, so that cooperation is the only skill that AI has to develop yet, right? So far, we don't see AIs being able to cooperate to the level of cooperation that is able for humans. So humans can have networks of cooperation of thousands and thousands of individuals, right? Think a company like a TSMC, and think the network of cooperation that fosters from the supplier of tungsten for a certain component to the person in Bangladesh that buys the TSMC chip in a budget phone that they find in the local market. And it's clear that from the producer in some region of the world to the buyer in another region of the world, there is a chain of cooperation that is effectively billions of individual large, right? So we still have to understand what is the prospect that will allow all these AI agents and all these AI tools to cooperate to the level at which humans are able to cooperate. Okay, so since the dawn of humanity, it's clear that what has distinguished AI, what has distinguished humans is not the intelligence itself. There are many intelligent animals, but it's our ability to form this large and sprawling cooperation network. So probably this is something that we can invest in. So in all this framework, we can ask, what is my job, right? As a teacher, this is something that I ask myself, right? So a way to think about this is what is called the Bloom taxonomy, or this is a psychological taxonomy for pedagogy, right? So it's clear that you can see this taxonomy from, let's say, pre-K to university. Okay, it's clear that if you're teaching something to somebody that is very young, you can just ask him to remember things, right? So you can ask a person to remember the date of a barrel, or remember how to spell flower in English. And then all the way to university, where you guys are now, then there should be the ability to create, right? For example, doing your master, it can be asked to you to come up with some original idea that fosters, that pushes the boundaries of knowledge. And in between, right, we have all these different levels of what pedagogy should attain, right? What going to class, talking to a professor, doing homework should attain, right? And it's clear that also for me, when we teach this class, I could focus on any of these levels. And if I had to choose any of the levels, of course, my ambition, right, would be for you to learn the highest level of the taxonomy, so beyond the memorization. Okay. Then there is another quote that I like, which I think fits this. A quote that sort of crystallizes my current thoughts about how to teach a class. So, you know, the Max Planck, right? The Planck Institute, the Planck constant, the great German physicist. It has a quote that says that a new scientific truth does not triumph by convincing its opponent and making them see the light, but rather because opponents eventually die and a new generation grows up with familiar concepts. Okay, so this is, I think, truth beyond scientific concepts. So if you think how classes are taught, what type of pedagogy people are implementing, usually people try to teach as they were taught, and then they try to innovate over this. So my hope is that to show you, let's say, some different teaching pedagogy that then you can decide to incarnate and take along once I stop being a teacher and eventually I die. Okay. Yeah. So I want you to focus on these skills, and I think one way to understand the difficulty in teaching these skills is this Anna Karenina quote from Dostoevsky that says, "Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way." So the idea is that I want you guys to become proficient in your soft skill, to increase your soft skills. But the idea is that effective communicators are all alike, right? People with very good soft skills, they're all the same. But ineffective communicators, they are all ineffective in their own way. So I cannot say what makes a good communicator. I can just let you observe how good communicators do. So moving along a little bit quicker. So some of the skills that we were mentioning, right? I think the first ones are the one that also Li Xiong mentioned: communication, leadership, teamwork, and creativity. That's very good. They're the one that come to mind. The last one are the one that are harder for you to imagine as contributing to your success at work, right? So conflict management. I think you guys have had, how to say this, maybe you've had very few occasions to work on your conflict management. For example, if you have a final project and there is a conflict in the group, then it's very hard for you to resolve the conflict. In my experience, I have observed that it's hard for students to manage the conflict effectively, and also emotional intelligence. So that's something that it's very hard to communicate to students, right? But for example, it always happens that people get very angry when they don't receive an answer to an email. If the teammates, they don't work as hard as they work, it creates a lot of negativity in the students. And this, for me, it's connected to your emotional intelligence, right? So you should be able to understand that what matters for you does not matter for others. That even if you want to succeed, different people will think that succeeding will entail different routes. So it's something that, of course, is not my goal to teach you these type of things, but I want you to put it in an environment where you can experience at least some of these difficulties. Okay. This one here, just a slide for you to go through. You don't have to focus on it. But I think that what I hope that you can observe in the class is what it's called the team player effect, right? So if you're a team player, right, if you're a great communicator, if you're great at soft skills, you will observe that everybody will step up to the plate and will cooperate and work together, prioritize goals. So I think this is the goal that you have as for this class, right? To observe that there are many things in which things can go wrong. People can drop off, cannot cooperate, can be late, can be lazy, but If you are a team player, right? If you go in the team with the right attitude and the right motivation and the right mindset, this will affect everybody positively. Okay. So something which is less prevalent now, but it was more prevalent in the class, is that there are usually a lot of foreigners that take the class. So for the machine learning, I think it intersects well with the period in which most people come to the exchange. So it seems that it's less now. I think that we have only a couple of foreigners. Let's see how many. Let me just ask how many foreigners. No, are you a foreigner / exchange student? Because there are some exchange students from Hong Kong that also have Chinese names, so I can spot them. Otherwise, I think Taiwanese. Yep. So let's do for this class, but there is also something. Okay, so you can take my machine learning class next semester, so you can experience it probably better. Something that often happens is that the groups have people from different countries, and also there is a lot of there are a lot of friction between different countries. Okay, and it always happens that some of this conflict is resolved and some of this conflict is not resolved. And typically, for example, I can tell you from last semester, there were a bunch of German students, and the German students, they are very timely. And when they work with the Taiwanese students tend to do everything in the last moment and rush because they're super busy, because they're taking 15 classes. And so the Germans and the Taiwanese, they always will have this conflict on what does it mean to be timely, right? What does it mean to work in time? But of course, so you will experience this in your own life, right? That people from different cultures, they leave the context of working a different way, and you should really be able to navigate differences, right? So this is not so relevant this semester, I think, but I think it's okay. So as I said, if you want to experience more of these cultural aspects of communication, please come to my next class. Let me just give you 4 of these different dimensions, and then again, just for context of the class, then you can think of them in terms of your own perception of this. So as we said, one thing that we notice right away as TAs and teachers is the value of punctuality between different cultures and the separation between work and work time and leisure time. So the Taiwanese are they blend work and pleasure very much, but of course Europeans, they don't do that, right? So especially Germans are a classical example, right? So if you send, if as a manager, you send a worker an email beyond work time, the worker will report you to the HR. So it happens to me when I was working in the German Institute a few months back, almost a year back, and they told me, right, don't ever communicate over the work time, because this is perceived as a violation of everybody's right to leisure time. Something else that you will experience is low context versus high context. So again, Americans, Germans, they have this, and Taiwanese, they differ in this aspect. So when you go to a meeting, Germans, Americans, they tend to explicitly say everything that will happen in the meeting. Okay, so there is everything is explained in detail, so that everybody at the meeting can know exactly what that type of decisions are being taken. Okay, whether if you go to a Taiwanese meeting, then you will realize that very little is said, right? Because the relationship between people is prioritized, so that the prior relationship will dictate what is the meaning of what is said at the meeting, right? A person could say, okay, and they say okay to a business agreement of a few $1 million, and the details of the contract are not explicitly discussed, because the people have a prior relationship and they have a prior trust. But if you go to the same meeting with the same agreement in place and you are, let's say, in the US, then the person has to read out loud what are the conditions of the contract, and everybody will have to agree that these are the conditions of the contract, and then everybody signs, right? So this is something that you might not have experienced before, but it's really relevant, right? So that's another type of intercultural soft skills that you will need to develop for your work. And then, of course, the other dimensions are space and information flow. So, yeah, just something for you to think about, okay? This is the example, right? So if you think about low context, that's USA and Germany, as I said, and the high context also France, Korea, Japan, Taiwan. I think they are all very high context communication. Okay? Very good, very good, very good, very good, very good. Yeah, I think this is about it regarding what I want to discuss for this. Let me just check that this is the last slide. Okay, so just let me give you a motivation, right? So I know that it's hard for you to believe that you should care about these things now because you're far away from graduation, but doesn't mean it's not so, because the workplace is changing very quickly, and the effect of AI over the workplace is completely destructive. So as I said, I think that for you, focusing on this case now, it's very relevant. So you want to future-proof your career, right? You want to develop your social aspects to the point in which they will be needed in 3-4 years. Avoid challenges once you get to the workplace, and then you have to learn all of a sudden that the way in which a meeting is conducted requires you to understand the social context of everything. And then also, I think it's a very strong foundation for leadership, right? And this foundation will be helpful for you beyond the working environment. Okay, good. That's it. So too much to discuss for now. So that's it. So I think Gaida is here. So maybe Gaida, you can say hi to the students. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. And I don't know if Suawei is here or if Harry came already. Yeah, go ahead, Gaida. Just say hi to the students.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Suawei. Yeah, maybe you want to introduce yourself. So Suawei, you took my machine learning class, right, or my deep learning class?
Yeah, like 2 years ago, I think.
Was the machine learning or the deep learning?
I took both, but
See, that's why you are my TA, because you love me as a professor, right?
yeah, there's an interval. Like I took machine learning in second year, but deep learning on the fourth year. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you just so Huawei and Gaida, can you say hi? Yeah, that is usually very quiet.
Sorry, I fell in my way.
No problem, no problem. So wait, maybe if you want to talk in Chinese about your experience during the class with the students a little bit, because Li Shong came up and tried to tell the students, why they should take the class, what are the difficulties, and I think also Elton made a video and he said that people should remember the final project. So yeah, so if you want to talk a little bit to the students, introduce yourself, tell your experience, I will appreciate that.
OK，那讲一些建议吧，就是分组完后，你先确认你们队友或是伙伴的工作时间，像是白天或是下午，有时候可能是半夜。然后团队角色分配，就是任务分配尽量明确 ，OK。然后定期和你的伙伴们，互相汇报自己的进度啊，免得做相同事情，浪费自己的精力。对，然后就是尽量沟通，然后任务要分清楚 ，OK。因为有人会摆烂的话，通常是发生在不清楚自己的职责或是现在的状况，那只能空转了嘛。对，好，最后就是找到共同的目标还有困境，那一起解决这个问题，然后找到对这个团队的热情。好，先这样，我建议先这样。OK, I'm done.
guys, if you want to ask some questions, go away, go ahead. I think Gaida is still public place, so she cannot speak. Yeah, but if you want to ask something to throw away, go ahead. He'll be your TA, so you can talk to him whatever you want. Okay, otherwise, I just want to finish with something. Again, just my opinion, and then we wrap up the class because yeah, I just want to something that I want to share. Just my thoughts, because I think this time it makes sense that yeah, that I'll just talk a little bit more about myself, because I will not do this during class, right? So I just want to share some thoughts, and then yeah, so especially why, yeah, what are my reflections? Because basically, if I had to teach in any other way than this, I will not. Okay, so we are putting I'm putting a lot of effort in teaching in this way, and so much effort that in this last year I was in my paternal leave. So we just had a kid, and we took a year off. And even if I was in paternal leave, I kept teaching this class because I'm learning so much about this class. I'm learning so much about what does it mean to be a teacher, and what is my role as a teacher. And I could have skipped teaching the class, but there was so much learning going on for me that that I wanted to take this experience, and I want to convey to you that this is there's also time for you to think maybe about what are some of the aspects, right, of your experience at university that you might not have considered before, but they are becoming very, very relevant to some larger problems, right? To some larger context, to a little bit the future of our societies, right? So I just finished reading this book, and I suggest you to read it. The first few chapters are very political, and then it becomes more focused on higher education. So the book describes what is the role of elite universities in the US in society, right? And what is their role? Okay, so this is the author is a political philosopher at Harvard, and it focuses on meritocracy. Okay, so meritocracy is what you guys are engaging in, basically, right? So meritocracy means that you guys took a state exam, you did well at the state exam, and you could access Jiaoda, you could access Taida, you could access Jiaoda, Qingda, and people that took a lower grade than you, they had to choose some other university, right? That was not as highly ranked. So meritocracy is the idea that we look at people, we ask them to take a quiz, depending on the grades of this quiz, then they decide to access some institutions, right? And the access to the institution is controlled by their abilities. And the idea is that this forms inequality, right? So of course, any type of mechanism to select people forms an inequality. It creates winners and losers, right? So if you do well at your test, if you have a high GPA, then you get to a better university. If you don't, then you don't get the chance. And then this affects sort of the common good, right? So we have this idea that through this mechanism, we allow people that want to work hard, that are smart, to achieve a high position in society, right? So because after you graduate from Jiaoda, then you will have the chance to go work at TSMC or work at MediaTek, and you will have a very high salary. You will get a position of expertise. People will give you position in society based on your GPA, on your scores, and so on. And it's really hard to argue that the system is not desirable, right? It's very hard to think that there are some aspects of this system that are not desirable. And unfortunately for myself, I become very aware of the political implications of this, right? And as a teacher that gives out grade that form a GPA that then decide what type of future you will have will influence what type of future you will have in society. This awareness is sort of painful, right? Sort of painful. And let's just discuss a little bit for 2 seconds this and why does it, why is it relevant? And I think it's relevant today is because, of course, we are almost in the post-AI era, right? So you can imagine that in 5 years, that could be the emergence of an AI tool which has superhuman performance in, let's say, in logical tasks, in research tasks. Already we observe superhuman performance of AI systems in many tasks, let's say classification, translation, image generation, music generation, right? And I think you guys need to be equipped to understand what are the changes that might occur in this post-AI era, and be able to imagine what are the changes that are coming. So something that the book points out, again, these are my opinions, you don't have to listen if you want, you can do whatever you want. So but basically something that the book argues is that we live in an era of technocratic governance, okay? So we have this idea that the political questions that we encounter, they have to be treated by experts, right? So if you have an economical problem, you need a PhD in economics. If you have a medical problem, you need somebody that has a very high position in medicine. If you have a transportation problem, you need an expert in transportation. And this is to the merit of the people that they are not the expert, but they are focused on the common good, right? So before, right, one would have, especially say in some earlier societies, right, people will be focused not on people that are technically expert, but people that care for the common good. And sort of this idea has fell out of favor in the way we look at governance. Okay, then we see the public good as being in terms of market mechanisms, right? So somebody will tell you, oh, in Taiwan, the median income is this much, the inflation is this much, the rate of investment is this much, the capital gains are this much. So this is how we should see the society. If things are going well, if things are going bad. So it's a very, again, a very technical or abstract way of looking at the success of the society, and then arguing, right? You could argue that there has been a rise of populism, right, where people feel disconnected with what is happening in society, and they see that the changes, the societal changes that are taking place are against their own common good, right? So you can argue any of this, but the idea is that the university is the great sorting mechanism. Okay, so with the experts that decide our policies, that decide what happens in the market, they arise from higher education. Okay, so when a person achieves higher education, then they have access to this position of dominance. But of course, the way in which people access higher education and they go to good universities, it's not fair as we think of it. Okay, so if your parents are highly educated, you will most likely also be highly educated, right? Because your parents will prepare you to do well at the test. They will teach you how to which tutors to choose, which Bushin band to go to, and this will give you access to higher education on the and will give you opportunities that other people don't have it. And this will create a bigger gap between the people that have access to this elite education, to these elite degrees, and people that don't. Okay, and are we happy with this sorting mechanism? You know, there are pros and cons, but one will argue that this is something that we should be at least aware of. And the issue, of course, is that soon these elites will become non-humans, right? So we know that there is a non-human ways in which this elite, that there will be an opportunity that this elite will become non-humans, and so the fallout from this will be something that we'll have to be concerned with. Okay, so this is just something that I wanted to share. Some personal thoughts as of why we are trying to move away. Personally, I'm trying to move away from giving grades and giving GPAs and sort of focusing on this technical skill only. Okay. Okay, very good. That's it. I think I said everything I want to say for today. I'll leave you. I'm gonna be here for I'm gonna be here for a few more minutes if you have any questions. As I said, from now on, the class will be mostly you guys speaking. So, yeah, so you'll not hear me talk so much. Next step is as follows. We will share an Excel file. In the Excel file, we will you can put in your student ID and an email where you want to be contacted. Okay. Then you will put in. We will take these numbers and sort them in, let's say, 5 groups, and we will release challenge 1 next week. Okay. So next week we'll release challenge 1 because next week you can have the Python tutorial. After that, we will ask you to just train your first DNN. Very easy task. You will not need any prior information about this. And then we will start the challenges from there. Of course, the challenge 0 is not, the first challenge is not graded, right? So it's just for you guys to get familiar with the different communication tools, make sure that everybody's on the same page, and yeah, make sure that you figure out how to submit and how to present and so on and so forth. And then, yeah, and that's it, basically. And then in 2 weeks, sorry, next week we're going to do the Python tutorial. In 2 weeks, I start with the first set of lectures. The first set of lectures will be on the neural networks, very basic neural networks. And if you want to know the topics in advance, they are on the Harvard webpage. And yeah, and that's about it. I think this is all I wanted to say. So I'm going to be here in chat if you want to ask me something. And really, that's it. I think I spoke too much, but I try to make the case that you should take this class, and it will be a great experience. Okay? Now, guys, let me mute myself.